Welcome back to Rating the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts. I'm Jeri.
And I'm Brad. And on this episode, we'll be exploring number 20 from Jeri's personal top 20 list. And Jeri's top 20 is The Sixth Sense. It was released in 1999. It was directed by M. Night Shyamalan. It was written by M. Night Shyamalan and edited by Andrew Monstein. And it stars Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment. After a fateful encounter with a disturbed former patient, acclaimed child psychologist Malcolm Crowe takes on the case of young Cole Sear, who harbors a disturbing secret.
Okay, so why do you think this movie is on my list?
I think this hits a lot of your buttons. So, one, it's a mystery, and you like mysteries.
Yes.
Two, it's got a little bit of a horror bent to it.
Yep.
And you're into that. And I think it has that big kind of, I don't want to call it a MacGuffin because it's not really a MacGuffin, but there's got to be a term for it because Shyamalan does this in all of his movies.
He does do this, yeah.
It's, there's this thing where it's just like, there's a moment where everything you've watched on the screen is completely turned on its head, and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And it usually happens about a little more than 3/4 of the way through. So you're almost at the end of the movie. The thing hits, it spins you all the way around, and then it finishes it out. That's kind of his storytelling thing, and I think that kind of appeals to you.
Yeah. So in my personal opinion, I think this is a perfect movie. I think that, Shyamalan came out here, and then his movies started doing this.
I mean, after this movie came out, he was on I think it was either Time or Newsweek. He was on the cover, and they were basically asking if he was the next Steven Spielberg.
Right.
That's kind of a heady.
That's big.
That's big.
Yeah. And so I just feel like from the beginning to the end, the storytelling in this movie is just everything means something from the start to the finish, that it's not one of those movies that you could just turn on and kind of pay attention. You really have to pay attention to what's going on. Like Brad said, I love a good mystery, and I do love horror films. I remember watching this movie in the theater.
I do too.
And everybody's reaction was the same as mine, where we were all like,
holy shit.
First of all, the horror elements are great. They're not grotesque. They're very subtle in a creepy way.
They serve a purpose.
And it's funny because you go into this movie and you're watching it and you're like, what's up with this kid? Like, what's his problem? Like, he's really distraught and upset. And as soon as he tells Bruce Willis's character, I see dead people, we start seeing what he's seeing. So we start seeing, these ghosts in his apartment that he shares with his mom. And I remember watching it in the theater with that little boy that comes out of his room, and he's like, do you want to see my dad's gun collection?
And he turns
and his whole back of his head is blown out. I remember everybody in the audience going, because it was just so subtle, and you weren't really expecting that. And just how these episodes with these ghosts came about, and how Toni Collette, come on.
She's great.
She's just phenomenal. She's a phenomenal actress.
All the performances
in
this movie are really good.
If they weren't, you wouldn't buy it, and she's in the kitchen with her son, and she closes a cabinet and she goes to make her tea, and she turns around and they're all open.
No, she goes into the other room.
Oh,
because something's missing, and when she comes back, he's still sitting there in the same spot.
Yeah.
Everything's opened up.
Everything's open, and he's gripping the table.
And it's not just that, but you see it. She's like, he had to have done this. How the hell did he do it?
Yeah,
she's doing the mom thing. Yes. Where the mom's like, I know you freaking did this, and I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out. but I don't know how you did it, so I can't call you on it quite yet.
And he's like a really good kid. And so when she sees things like this that he does, she's like, she doesn't know what to do. Yeah. She's worried about him. And just the subtle things of, like Brad and I were talking about how, you know, his mom, there's one scene where the mom's sitting on a chair and there's another chair next to her. And they're both looking this way, Bruce Willis and her. And the little guy comes in and she starts talking to him. To me, when you first watch this movie, it really feels like they just came out of a conversation. Right. You know? And then he comes in. But that isn't the case. Yeah. You know? So, I mean, this movie's been out forever.
This movie's 25 years old. Yeah. So we're going to spoil it.
Yeah, we're going to spoil it. So, so the ending is... What's so crazy is, like, seeing this ending after I've watched it, I'm still like, works. Yeah, it's one, it still works, and two, I'm like, it's so obvious. Like, how did I not see that? You know, and it's just, it's a phenomenal movie, and I really, really, really wish that all his movies were this good.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
So, for me, so how has this changed in your estimation after seeing it again?
I think I have a bigger appreciation for the movie and how it's been constructed and how, like, it's been constructed and how, and how everything kind of fits together in it. And I think I also appreciate the performances more because, you know, when I was younger and I watched this, you know, I was really into the whole story.
Right.
So I really appreciate the characters and how they rolled it all out, because I think that if they weren't believable, the movie wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is great in this movie. He's very subtle. You really understand that he's very concerned about this child, and he's trying to make up for what happened to the other child that he tried to treat and couldn't do it. Yeah. So I think I just had a little bit more appreciation for the movie itself. Yeah. How about you?
For me, I have similar thoughts on it. So for me, this goes back to your earlier comment about, like, he came out of the gate like hot. And two things happen here. One is, why can't you just make other really good movies? Because you're super talented. You're a really good writer and you're a good director. And you just really I mean, he's been so mixed bag since then.
Yeah.
Like Unbreakable, I think, is really good.
Unbreakable is good.
But other than that, I don't really... there's none of his movies where I'm like, yeah, I gotta go see that again.
I think Split was really good.
Split's really good. But, like, for the most part, I don't need to go back to see any movie he's ever done. And this is the only one of his, you know, with his gotcha, which is kind of in all of his movies, that you can go back and still get something out of the movie. Like the other movies, like the gotcha is the thing. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
Like The Village, there's nothing else but the gotcha.
Yes, that is very true.
Like, I mean, there's just like nothing else. This one, like, when I went into to watch it this time, because I've already, you know, obviously I know what happens. I was really, really trying to pay attention to two things. One was, where are all the clues? Does he really give anything away?
Everything is a clue.
The whole movie's a clue.
Yeah.
And the two most important performances are Olivia Williams, who plays his wife, and Toni Collette.
Yeah.
And I never realized that until I watched it this time. They're the two performances that let you know, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
I think Haley Joel Osment gives one of the best child performances in the history of film. And I'm really glad that in the last couple of years he's kind of had a little bit of a
Yes,
resurgence.
he has.
And he's kind of shown up and done some character work because he's a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
And he disappeared for a really long time because, unfortunately in Hollywood, he's a kind of looks like me, honestly. He's a little heavy set, got glasses, and
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't really fit into the leading man or whatever, this or
Right.
that, but he's shown up and stuff. He is so good in this movie.
He's really good.
So good. Bruce Willis gives a really good performance. The two women, Toni Collette and Olivia Williams, give great performances. A lot of the smaller characters. The one thing I would call you on is I don't think it's a perfect movie.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
There's one scene that's completely that's in there, and it probably should be edited out because it really doesn't play in anything else. It's a good scene, but to me, like a perfect movie, every scene builds on the story.
Okay.
It does important things in the story.
So what scene are you talking about?
It's the scene where, with the videotape, where the guy sees his wife poisoning the daughter. It's just kind of thrown in there a little bit. It does a little bit for Haley Joel Osment's character, but it doesn't do anything for the overall story.
Oh, see, I don't believe that.
I think it's character building, but I don't think it does much for the story.
It tells you what good it did for the family and for the dead girl, for them to see what this woman was doing.
Oh, I understand.
To his kid.
I understand that.
And so,
but to me, that's not the story.
Yeah, but Haley Joel Osment then realizes, wow, if I help these people, maybe they'll leave me alone. So it changes him. Now he knows how to deal with these ghosts.
But that still isn't, to me, that's character building, and that's okay, but it needs to move everything forward.
But it does.
It doesn't move anything with Bruce Willis forward.
Well, it shows Bruce Willis that he's helped him, and he can now move on from being a ghost to the beyond.
But Bruce Willis doesn't see what happens. He doesn't know what happens there. He's outside.
I thought he was inside there.
No, he's outside.
Okay.
So, it's a quibble. To me, perfect is perfect. This is very, very good.
Okay. Well, I think
that's my quibble. I gave this one a 72.4.
Okay.
It didn't. The biggest reason it took a hit, it's not in my top 100, which I think is.
Okay.
That's when, like, you're gonna see some variations in scores. One of our scoring criteria is whether it falls in our personal top 100s. Anything you see kind of on the lower end, it's going to get dinged 10 points automatically if it's not in our top 10 or top 100. So that's part of the reason it's lower. This is a really good movie, though. I enjoyed it a lot.
All right.
Your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'm sure you've seen this movie. I say give it a second watch.
Or even a third. I think I've seen this like 4 times now.
Yeah, and it
still holds up.
You still get something from it each time. Like, it's the movie that keeps on giving every time you watch it.
Yeah, and I think it works as you've gotten older. Because you're a little, when you're a little more closer to the Bruce Willis's character's age, you kind of get some of the regret and stuff with him a little bit easier.
Yeah. Oh, Donnie Wahlberg.
Great performance.
Like, what? He was in it for 5 minutes, maybe?
About
10 minutes?
Yeah, one scene, basically.
I remember watching this movie, and
you didn't know it was him.
Right? I didn't know it was him. At the end of the movie, they showed the credits, and I'm like, Donnie Wahlberg? What part was he in? And then, later I found out that that was him in the first part, the older kid that's all get ghosts. I was blown away.
Much better actor than his brother.
Blown away.
Yeah, it's really good.
So overall, such a great movie. That's why it made my top 20.
Okay.
All right. If you have any comments or you would like to, react to my number 20, please do so in the comments. If you'd like to email us directly, please email us at ratingthelist@gmail.com. But I think that's it for now. I'm Jeri.
I'm Brad.
And we're Rating the List. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.